Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a bit of an overview of a gun that I've been working on for a friend, and it is a custom, I guess you can call it a JG, but it's more of a Frankenstein gun right now, M4. Okay, so as you can see, this gun pretty much looks like a real steel M4. I pretty much revamped the whole externals. It was a JG M4S system with a plastic body. Now it has a Cyma Cybergun fully licensed body with Colt trademarks. Buffer tube, pretty standard, nothing special there. It has a Leapers 3 magnification scope. Turns green and red reticle. You've got a new textured hand grip for the motor, and a heatsink motor plate. Moving along the front of the gun, you've got some standard M4 handguards, along with a rail that I custom built on the gun. It'll hold pretty much any accessories, and I don't look for it to fall off anytime soon. And getting to the front of the gun, you've got the standard triangle sight, which does not impede the scope, and I painted the flash hider black. As you can see, I missed a tiny spot there, but for the most part the flash hider looks pretty good as far as that goes. This gun weighs in at about, I'd say, 8.5 to 9 pounds. It's pretty hefty. It's got a functioning charging handle with no bolt, but that makes it even nicer to adjust the hop up. Got the standard JG magazine here. Blends in well with the gun. I'll flip it back over. And there's another last look at it. So let's plug it into some batteries and see how it performs, and I'll go over what I did internally. Alright, so before I hook it up to a battery, I'm going to do a quick overview on what I've done to the internals of this gun. Inside it's got pretty much the JG enhanced gearbox, pretty standard. It was from the M4S system that the gun began as. JGs have pretty solid internals. They just need to be tuned properly. So the first thing I did was re-grease and re-shim the gun. Oh, forget it. I used Super Lube synthetic grease. Has no petroleum distillates in it. Makes the gear spin nicely, and whenever I opened the gun up, it had no shims in between the gears. That's kind of to be expected from JG. Chinese companies don't tend to have good quality whenever it comes to that kind of stuff. The next thing I did was to improve the compression of the gun. I took some number 14 faucet O-rings and put one on the piston head, and it gets perfect compression. Speaking of which, I changed the piston head to a red JG aftermarket piston head. There wasn't really a need to do this. It was just slightly lighter than the piston head that was in there before. Two parts that I did change in the gearbox was, one, the piston. I normally like this piston, but upon further inspection, I'm not sure if you can see it, but the gears actually were eating away at the rack of this piston, and it was getting ready to fail. So I don't know, but JG kind of slacked right there. But got that swapped out. We've got a nice nylon piston in there now with the angle of engagement properly corrected. Another thing I changed the spring, mainly because I put a variable pitch spring in there to help with the gearbox durability. The one I put in was an M115 element spring. The stock spring was probably about an M120, so it'll probably shoot with slightly less feet per second, but that'll be made up for by the compression gain from the piston head because the compression was bad. I mostly took this spring out because I noticed it was bent, and I don't know if you guys can tell, but that's from the torsion on the spring, and I don't know, I found it unnerving that the spring was bent in such a way. Okay, so moving along, what else did I do? Well, I added a servo pad on the head of the cylinder head to help with the angle of engagement, and everything else seemed pretty fine stock. Two things I do need to add. One last time whenever I open it up, I got a set of core 16:1 high-speed gear sets to help with the trigger response, and a Lonex O-ring nozzle to help with the feet per second and consistency. So once I get those in, the gun will be pretty much complete and ready to go. But let's move over. I've got a couple batteries charged and see what kind of rounds per second we get out. So we've got a 8.4 1100 milliamp hour battery going. It is fully charged. Let's go with trigger response first. Sounds pretty good. Let's flip to full auto. Okay, now I've got a Tenergy 1600 milliamp hour 9.6 volt battery hooked up, and let's go through trigger response. Pretty snappy. Fully auto. Okay. Okay, so overall this gun was more of a durability build and is by no means going to set any records as far as rate of fire goes or feet per second, but shooting at about 385 feet per second, and with a 9.6, I'd say it's getting about 18 rounds per second. That is pretty good. As far as accuracy goes, I was getting pretty consistent 6-inch or so groupings at 40 yards, which isn't too bad. I've cleaned the bucking and the barrel, and I've switched the bucking to a Lonex soft bucking. But mainly this gun is for a durable gearbox. It's not going to break anytime soon. It's fully metal. Looks very nice. Got the licensing, the scope on the top, nice grip. Overall, it's just a solid gun. I hope my friend who I'm building it for likes it. And I would feel very safe running this gun on, say, a 10.8 or 11.1 LiPo battery without much trouble. The only issue you would possibly run into with that would be the trigger contacts. You'd need a MOSFET. But other than that, the internals are built to last. The externals are great. Got some nice attachments. It's very accurate. Very nice gun. So, that is my custom built Frankenstein gun M4. I hope you like it. Until next time, please like, rate, and subscribe. Signing off.